to the Graybar Sports Open Line.
Goldschmidt swings and he hits a drive. He hits a slammer.
Graybar, your distributor for electrical and datacom needs. Here we go. Now, Matt Pauley on America's Sports Voice, KMOX.
All right, man, let's get going here. Here we go. Let's go.
Well, one more night. You just have to put up with me for one more night, and I promise you Matt Pauley will be back tomorrow night. Joe Pott in for Matt Pauley here on this Thursday night edition of the Graybar Sports Open Line. Seriously, though, great to be back. Glad to have everyone with us. I hope it's been a good week. It's certainly been a good week for me here in this chair, and I appreciate the chance to chat with everyone that we've chatted with so far this week and to chat with you. And I hope to have some time for some calls tonight. I've said that during the week. I've only taken a couple of calls. I think it looks like there's some time tonight in our 7 o'clock hour to get to some calls. So if you're thinking about it tonight, looks like it's going to be the night. Though I do have some nice guests joining us tonight. Brian Dunseth is going to join us in the next segment. He's an Apple TV match analyst on the MLS Season Pass. He had the game last night against Seattle. Is also going to be on the game coming up against Sporting KC this weekend. So we'll chat with him about, what he's seen really in looking at City and really compared to maybe what he saw last year, maybe what he thinks some of the differences are. We'll chat with him. We'll chat some golf coming up at 6:35. Dan Reardon, KMOX golf editor, will be with us coming up in the at 6:35. At 7:20. Tamar Scheer from KMOV4 will be with us. I was trying to remember. I don't think that I've had a chance to chat with her on this program. We chat in different settings all the time. I actually first met her before she came to St. Louis because she knew Tom Ackerman. They're both Indiana grads, and that was the connection. And I met her at Media Day for the Ohio Valley Conference for Basketball Media Day, because we were there in Evansville, and that's where she was working before she came to St. Louis. So we've known before she returned to St. Louis. She is a St. Louis native. So we'll chat with her. She covered a really cool story today, and we'll get you in on that. That comes up in our 7 o'clock hour. And then I'm pretty open after that 7:20 spot. So the last couple of segments, we could dedicate those to some phone calls if you'd like. I also may have the opportunity to let you hear a little bit from Oliver Marmol. He visited yesterday with Tom Ackerman. So if we have a chance, we'll dig that up and let you hear a little bit of that. That's a little bit of what's coming up here on the show tonight. I just made a note of a couple of things that I wanted to chat about, and that certainly we can do that with the calls as well. I don't know if you saw ESPN's top pro athletes of the 21st century. That is the way they have deemed it, is the top pro athletes of the 21st century. So since the year 2000. And it's interesting, and I had this discussion with Kevin Wheeler and with Kyle Sixta, who's in with us tonight. He's behind the board. And we were talking about just kind of what that means. What does it mean to be an athlete? And it does say pro athletes, the top 100 professional athletes. But it still is a hard thing to define. And it's hard when you have, I can tell you the top couple of folks on the list: Michael Phelps, Serena Williams, that's 1 and 2. Lionel Messi is number 3. LeBron James is number 4. Tom Brady is number 5. Are they all great athletes? I don't know. They're all great at what they do in their sport. I would guess that Michael Phelps is a pretty darn good athlete, because you've got to be a competitive swimmer. Simone Biles is on the list at number 7. Roger Federer is number 6, by the way. I would tend to skew towards someone like Simone Biles when you're talking about an athlete, right?
Yeah, I would agree. I think there's a difference between, being an athlete and being successful, like you said.
Being good at your sport.
Right. I mean, you're not going to see someone like Tiger Woods or someone like that, running a fast 40-yard dash, right, when you have Usain Bolt lower on the list. Like, if you're talking athletically, Usain Bolt's probably the guy, or someone like that.
Agreed.
But it just depends on how you interpret
it's
it.
Tiger Woods at 8 and Usain Bolt at 9, and that is a very good point. Kobe Bryant is number 10. That rounds out the top 10. Albert Pujols is the highest rated baseball player on the list. He comes in at number 24. But again, I don't look at Albert Pujols and scream athlete. I look at Albert Pujols and scream great baseball player, great hitter. He was an athlete. He obviously played first base for a good portion of his career. But again, when you're talking about comparing him to like Simone Biles or a Michael Phelps, I don't know. It's hard. It's hard when you don't have strictly defined parameters.
Exactly, and it's just hard to compare these sports to begin with. It's, Tom Brady, he's arguably the greatest football player. How do you compare him to someone like Michael Phelps, who just competes and dominates the Olympics and racks up gold medals? It's not one to one. It's not apples to apples. It's completely different, and that's what makes it so hard.
Totally agree. And I would say that a football player, I would say leads to more of an athlete than say a baseball player. So I would agree with, him being up much higher than Albert Pujols, but it's just a little bit, it's interesting. I don't know. I don't have the answer because I don't know what you would term them as. Pro athletes is the term that ESPN uses. So, and you can't just say pro sports figures because then I think you're talking about, are there coaches that need to be in there? So I don't know. It's interesting nonetheless. If nothing else, it gives us something to chat about during the All-Star break.
That's for sure. And one thing that's for sure is that no one is going to agree on this. Everyone's
sure.
going to have their own opinion. So it's good debate.
And it's exactly what ESPN wanted out of this.
Sure.
They wanted people like me to chat about it on the Thursday night in the All-Star break when there's not much else going on. But we have some stuff to talk about. We're going to get started with some St. Louis City and some MLS soccer coming up on the other side of the break when we visit with Brian Dunseth. He's an MLS season pass match analyst. He's coming up. It's the Gray Bar Sports Open Line. I'm Joe Pott in for Matt Pauley, and we're coming back on KMOX.
Local news and information direct to your smart
KMOX.com studios.
KMOX.
Welcome back to the Gray Bar Sports Open Line. Once again, Matt Pauley on KMOX.
It is Joe Pott in for Matt Pauley this week here on the Gray Bar Sports Open Line. Happy to have you along with us tonight as we work our way through the last night here of the All-Star break. And, of course, still plenty going on, still plenty to talk about, including St. Louis City SC. They dropped a match last night on the road at Seattle. They're on a road trip. They continue on their road trip to Sporting KC. And Brian Dunseth, I don't know if you're on the trip with the team or you're just traveling alongside, but you were there last night as part of the Apple TV broadcast, and you'll be there this weekend again. Thanks for some time.
Yeah, no, appreciate it. Have a quick pit stop at home, taking my kids out to their soccer practice, and then tomorrow afternoon off to Kansas City for one heck of a rivalry match between these two teams.
It is, and you know, hopefully that it hasn't lost its luster, because it's obviously been a tough season, a tough stretch right now for St. Louis City SC. Just give us an idea, your thoughts after seeing City last night. I don't know if you've seen them this year yet, until last night, that is, but just kind of your thoughts on what you saw from City last night.
Yeah, I've actually covered the team on 4 or 5 different occasions, starting on the road at Austin in the beginning of the year when, you know, the idea was Sam Adeniran and A.Z. Jackson and Joao Klaus and Celio Pompeo, and what that kind of quad or trifecta was going to look like in the attack for Bradley Carnell. And obviously things have gone horrifically sideways to the point where Bradley Carnell was dismissed back on January 1st, and John Hackworth takes over and trying to steady the ship. You know, it's been less than ideal. And I think right now it's a little bit of a crisis of confidence, but with the summer transfer window opening up and the 3 signings going to be registered and available this weekend at Sporting Kansas City, you know, you think about the psychology of the group, you think about the momentum. And right now, like I was saying during the broadcast at Seattle, this group needs little wins. And little wins could be Tim Parker clearing the ball off the line. Little wins could be not having Tim Parker, unfortunately, deflect the ball into his own goal. But, you know, I've been a part of these teams where things seem to be going horrifically sideways, and you just can't figure out how to find that little bit of momentum. But if there was ever a time to find that bit of momentum, it's certainly against Sporting Kansas City on Saturday night.
And not only the Sporting KC game, but then, of course, you get into the Leagues Cup break, and it's a chance to then kind of, hopefully, ideally, you have these 3 kind of get a chance to train, get a chance to work their way into this club more intimately, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I think you've got a couple trains of thought, right? You know, when you sign players, even if they're not eligible right away, you want to get them, you know, like they did with Edward Leuven, like they did with Joao Klaus, like they did with Roman Berkey. You want to get them settled intimately with the city where, you know, they've got their house sorted and families can get sorted out and schools can get picked out, feels comfortable with where they're at. And sometimes that's available. Sometimes it's not available. But you're right. Right now you're looking for a little bit of momentum, and a positive result goes a long way with the start of Leagues Cup, and understanding that, you know, you obviously are concerned about Leagues Cup and want to put your best foot forward and showcase that this is an incredible organization that has high level potential. But at the same time, you want to use that momentum to get yourself back on track. And using Sporting Kansas City as the perfect example, you know, they struggled horrifically in the first phase of the season and then found their momentum. And what we've seen in Major League Soccer is if you can rattle off 3, 4, 5 games in a row, all of a sudden it completely changes the trajectory of what your season looked like. And we saw that with Seattle early in the season. Brian Schmetzer's team, they couldn't buy their luck. And next thing you knew, you know, they find themselves with 10 wins, a loss, and 4 draws in 15 matches. And all of a sudden things look different, things feel different, and that momentum completely changes the way that you're looking at heading in, you know. And I was saying this with Max Bretos the other night. You know, for Seattle, they almost don't want the league to stop. They want to continue this momentum. Whereas for St. Louis, it's almost an ideal time for Leagues Cup to kind of upset the rhythm of Major League Soccer and give themselves kind of a different format to look like, and an opportunity, as you said, to bet in some of these, you know, dynamic new players that can make a difference in the roster.
Brian Dunseth is with us. He is a match analyst on the MLS Season Pass, and you were talking about the kind of the quad of players, and of course, AZ Jackson. You mentioned he is no longer with the team, and now today Sam Adeniran leaves. He goes to Philly. Was there any other, at least from everything that we hear and from kind of the saga that we followed, it didn't seem like there was any other outcome than eventually Sam Adeniran going somewhere else?
Yeah, which is too bad, because I thought last year Sam played a vital role coming off the bench, and at a time when Joao Klaus had that hamstring injury and just couldn't kind of get himself right, he was kind of the perfect foil coming in and either closing games out or chasing games with Joaquini. With Joaquini, heading over to Como, being success and promotion to Serie A, at the beginning of the season, Sam, was it going to be Sam's position? Was it going to be Klaus's position? Was it going to be both of them? Playing in a 4-4-2 with a diamond formation underneath them. And Bradley tried to figure it out. Whether it's performance, whether it's personality, the reality is, there's short timelines for professional soccer players, professional footballers. And the fact that this club felt like this was the right move right now, whether that's Lutz, whether that was Bradley, whether that's John Hackworth, the reality is, if you don't think it's working out, you got to make the decision, and you got to be ruthless, and you got to be cunning. And so now you bring in a couple of guys that can play as a 10 or as a 9 or as a wide player, plays as central midfielder. So the spine of the team is going to get stronger. And now you're able to capitalize with whatever the final amount of money is for Sam going over to Philly. Now you can, in an international transfer window, either within the league or outside of the league, knowing Lutz's connections and the connectivity he has, to go out and find the player that you feel best fits what this club needs currently.
Brian Dunseth, a longtime player here in the U.S., including with the U.S. men's national team. I want to ask you about something, if you don't mind. We had some news today that St. Louis City got a meeting together, facilitated a meeting between Major League Soccer and supporters groups talking about the future of MLS playing in the U.S. Open Cup. Do you feel like, or do you have strong feelings on whether or not MLS should have a stronger presence in the U.S. Open Cup?
Yeah, I mean, you're talking to a guy that won the Open Cup. So the U.S. Open Cup is something that is really, really special to me. I won it with the Columbus Crew back in the day with Lamar Hunt, whose name is on the trophy, him in the first MLS soccer-specific stadium, which was, the old historic Crew Stadium. For me, the DNA, the genetic side of the game is important, the representation of U.S. Open Cup. But I also understand that with the growth of CONCACAF Champions Cup, with, the continued evolution of success of multiple competitions, that sometimes things get a little bit more difficult, a little bit more convoluted. But, being a kid in Southern California and understanding the history of what St. Louis soccer has meant historically, to the United States and to these different cup competitions, I loved it, and I love that MLS was receptive enough to recognize that, St. Louis is a club that wants to be involved and wants to have a presence in the U.S. Open Cup. So, yeah, I guess I'm an old head when it comes to what U.S. Open Cup has meant. I've had success in MLS. I've also had success with amateur teams, with Hollywood United and going up to the Portland Timbers and knocking them out of U.S. Open Cup and understanding what these fairy tale runs could mean. So, I love it. I love that there's an open dialogue. I love that, there's an opportunity for cooler heads to prevail and understand that, for some of these clubs in MLS, it's a non-negotiable. They do want to partake and be a part of the U.S. Open Cup and what historically that has meant to this country.
It'll be St. Louis City SC playing at Sporting KC on the 20th on Saturday. It's a 7:30 kickoff time. Brian will be on that call. Brian Dunseth, thanks for some time tonight. Appreciate your insight and the chance to catch up.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Anytime, man. Good catching up with you.
Absolutely. Brian Dunseth with us from Apple TV, a match analyst on the MLS Season Pass. And again, he'll be on that call coming up on Saturday. He was on the call last night as well. Good insight from him. Good to hear I actually didn't realize he had won the Open Cup. I figured he had been part of the Open Cup, so that was even cooler to hear that. When we come back, we're going to switch gears. We're going to talk a little golf. The British Open, the Open Championship, if you will, underway in Scotland, and we'll talk to Dan Reardon on the other side of the break as the Gray Bar Sports Open Line continues here on a Thursday night. Joe Pott in for Matt Pauley, and we're coming right back on KMOX.
What's happening in the world of politics? Find out from the guy. Push for the playoffs as they take on the Braves Friday night. Hear it here and every Redbirds game on your home of the St. Louis Cardinals. KMOX.
The Gray Bar Sports Open Line continues for a Thursday night. Joe Pott in for Matt Pauley. One more night. Baseball's back tomorrow, and so is Matt Pauley for you for the pre- and post-game coverage of the Cards and the Braves tomorrow. So we continue on tonight, and happy to welcome in the KMOX golf editor, longtime golf reporter, Dan Reardon, with us here as the 152nd Open Championship has gotten underway. Dan, I appreciate the time tonight.
I appreciate the opportunity. It's funny you say the 152nd. I did a setup piece this morning for Tom Ackman. I pointed out the first Open Championship was conducted the same year that Abraham Lincoln was elected president.
That's amazing.
It is. It's the Pony Express was launched that same year as well. But that gives you the depth of this championship.
Yeah, when you put it in a context like that is unreal to think about that. Dan, how long have you been doing this? How long have you been covering golf for us here at KMOX?
My first assignment for KMOX was the 1985 U.S. Open at Oakland Hills.
Man, that is fantastic. Because I know that I was listening back then, so I always heard you as just listening, and now I get a chance to do this, so I really appreciate it. So. One round in the books. Daniel Brown right now at the top of the leaderboard. And, there is at least an Irish golfer near the top of the leaderboard. Maybe not who people had hoped or thought it might be, but Shane Lowry is up there as well. What has stood out from round one for you so far?
Two things. First of all, if you look at the top 10 on the leaderboard of the first day, 6 of those 10 players are names you would not expect to find on a leaderboard at a major championship. Now, and then that's because this is the first round. The other thing that is the explanation for why this round turned out much different than maybe people expected is the players had no wind to practice on Monday and Tuesday. You expect weather to be a factor in an Open Championship. On Wednesday, they had wind, and they practiced and prepared for those circumstances. But when they got to the course today, the wind was blowing 180-degree difference.
Oh.
And so their preparation was a complete waste of time. And those crosswinds just played havoc with the entire field throughout the day.
It's at the Royal Troon Golf Club. And I, frankly, didn't know a lot about that particular course. I was reading about it earlier today. And I know sometimes the wind can be, it's basically that back nine when you're coming back right in your face is often what it is. You said today it's more of a crosswind they're dealing with?
It is crosswind, but it's also what would typically be downwind on this golf course, which the back nine was into your face, and what was typically into your face was just a complete reversal. And the players haven't been here since Henrik Stenson won back in the mid-teens, so they haven't been to this course in a number of years. And for a lot of these players, it's their first ever chance. So, like I said, you get that sort of upside down leaderboard, at least at the top of the leaderboard. I mean, Daniel Brown is a 29-year-old who's playing his first major championship, barely got into the event. He's having his day at the top, but you don't expect to see him around. You mentioned the Irish connection. Shane Lowry won the sort of dream Open Championship when the Irish guy won at Royal Portrush in 2019. Even Lowry, I think, is a little bit of a surprise with this start. The most legitimate name, I think, in that group is probably Justin Thomas. Played well the opening round last week, has 2 majors under his belt, and actually played extremely well, had 7 birdies in his round. And but for one double bogey and a couple of bogeys, but one double, he would have been right there amongst the top 3 names or top 2 names.
And of course, I was kind of referencing Rory McIlroy. It took some time off, did play at the Scottish Open, and had a decent showing at the Scottish Open. Did you expect, or do you expect, I guess, that this could be a good week for him?
I would have thought so. I mean, everything he said going into the tournament sounded like the right thing to say. I mean, he was asked again about the collapse at Pinehurst and everything he had to say. And actually, after his round today, when he talked, he was actually sort of happy with the way he struck the ball, but he said he just could never get anything started. So instead of being among the leaders, he's one of these guys sitting at 6, 7, 8 under par, who are looking to try to make it to the weekend, and he's not alone in that category. There's a number of players, including, and I'm not so much a surprise, but including Tiger Woods, who opened with a 79, and Tiger had the controversy, a little bit of a controversy, and that Colin Montgomery said earlier in the week he thought Tiger shouldn't be
right.
He's making Colin look pretty good right now.
Yeah, and that I did like the comeback though. He said that he's got the championship. He doesn't have to worry about it, where Colin doesn't.
Tiger can talk smack.
Right.
And the funny thing about Tiger's round was I think he had 6-7 bogeys on the round. On all but 2 of the bogeys, his drive hit the fairway. So his problem was clearly irons. And then I think he had 3 putts in the round. But the point I'm trying to make is, when you've done everything that you could possibly do, when is it time to say when? Well, it's Tiger's decision, and he apparently is not. He talked about he feels better physically than he's ever felt since the car accident, and this will be the last time we see him until December for his Hero event, and then probably not until next year at the Masters.
Yeah, you raised a great point, and I think, obviously, it's not just golf; it's many sports that we see that. When is it time, or when is it's past time, and that's I can't imagine that. I can't connect with that, not being certainly an athlete at that kind of level at all. So I understand. I guess if you can still do it, more power to you, right?
I just think it's unfortunate that the records Tiger is setting these days are the records for his worst ever. Whether it's a round at the Masters, whether it's a finish at the PGA, whatever it might be, he's filling up the wrong side of the record book. Now, let's give him the fact that when he made the cut at Augusta, he became the all-time leader in cuts made at the Masters. So he did accomplish that. But it's just, the numbers like 79, 80, 81, you don't associate with Tiger, and you'll look for him to shoot 9s in the 40s. So, like I said, he's Tiger, and he draws the galleries, and he's entitled to do this as long as he wants to do this.
Dan Reardon, KMOX golf editor, with us here as we talk a little bit about the Open Championship. What do you know, or what do you know what the conditions will be as we go forward the next couple of days? We expect that the wind conditions will be exactly the same. By the way, it was quite cold again today. We expect that will be the same for tomorrow, and then when we get to the weekend, it's a little uncertain which direction that's going to go. And when I sort of downplayed the leaderboard, we have to throw in that right off of that top 10, you have people like Brooks Koepka at 1 under, you had Scotty Scheffler at 1 under, you have Matthew Fitzpatrick 1 under, Adam Scott and Alexander Schauffele at 2 under. So you have names ready to make a move in this championship. They just didn't quite do it today. Do they have the opportunity, do you think, to make that move?
Oh, yeah. One thing that you can say about tour players, they learned. They learn from the first day to the last day. So you can throw conditions at them, and you may fool them one day. And when they come out the next day, if they face the same circumstance, they'll have learned their lessons. So, today we had, I think, 17 scores under par. I think that number probably will go, maybe not go up. I think we'll have at least that many under par tomorrow. And the trick will be how many of those who are currently under will be in that category. And the Schefflers and the Schauffele's and the people like that, they have a track record of doing this on multiple rounds. And I would expect we'll see that tomorrow. And then it remains to be seen out of those sort of lesser names that are currently in the top 10, how many of them survive into the end of the second round and make the cut.
Can they stay there? Right. That's exactly right. Dan, I appreciate the chance to catch up and talk a little Open Championship with you. And we'll be watching, of course, the next 3 days, and we'll hear from you, I know, throughout the weekend here on KMOX on various shows. So I appreciate the time.
I enjoyed the invitation, Joe. Nice being with you.
Absolutely. Dan Reardon, KMOX golf editor, with us, and we have more to do here on the Graybar Sports Open Line as we continue along on a Thursday night. We can talk a little more baseball if you'd like here in the end of this hour and going into the 7 o'clock hour. Plenty to do, and we'll do that on the other side of the break. Joe Pott in for Matt Pauley. The Graybar Sports Open Line continues after this on KMOX.
What better way to support your
Sports Open Line, Joe Pod with you in for Matt Pauley all week long. And of course, there's naturally, we've talked a lot about the Cardinals and the first half the Cardinals have had and, expectations, like reasonable expectations of what this team can be. I say first half. You know by now it's not the first half. The first half was eclipsed earlier in the season. So this is kind of, I was messing around for my own doing, really. I was trying to figure out what it looks like reasonably. Again, what do you expect? What can you expect from the Cardinals? So 66 games to play for the Cardinals. If you look at the last 66 games the Cardinals played, they were 36-30, which, of course, that is right on par, right? Because you're 4 games over right now. If you're telling me they're within 2 or 3 games or 4 or 5 games, whatever, of 500, that's fine. However, that includes a stretch from April 30th to May 11th. And remember, May 11th was the end of that losing streak. They were 1-8. From April 30th to May 11th, they were 1-8. So that is included in that last 36 games. So then you take the May 12th date. That's the date that everybody is pushing out there. That's the Mother's Day. That was the last day in Milwaukee. It was when the losing streak ended. 7-game losing streak. They're 35-22 since that game. That's a 614 winning percentage. So, okay, let's go back. Because if you go 36-30, which is what the last 66 was, you're 86-76. That's what this team would be, which I don't think is out of the question at all. I think it's probably pretty reasonable. If you play baseball at a 614 winning percentage, which is what they have done since May 12th, you're 90-72. It gives you about 40 wins. In fact, 40 and a half. So you're roughly 90 wins, which in that case, you feel pretty good about yourselves. I'll tell you, last year, the National League wildcard teams were in at 84-78. So even if you just go 86-76, you at least feel like there's a reasonable shot you're getting into the playoffs. And keep in mind, the Diamondbacks got in at 84-78, and they were the National League champs. So it can happen. The Brewers, by the way, right now, playing .567 baseball, which is exactly what they did last year. That's identical to where the Brewers were last year. That gets them, if they stay right where they are, to 37 more wins. They're 92-70. So you're looking, I think it's reasonable to expect that this team, the Cardinals team, could be in the mix, A, for the division, the Central Division, and B, certainly for a wild card spot, which is, of course, where you are now. You're in the wild card spot before you get started after the All-Star break. And you're 4.5 games out in the National League Central Division. So I without a doubt, think it is plenty reasonable to believe that this team is going to be in the conversation as we move through the last, a little less than a third of the season to play after, or a little more than a third of the season to play after the All-Star break. And then you start thinking about if they make a move. Can they make a move? Can they somewhere, somehow improve the team? And again, I've talked a lot about it the last 3 days. Like, where does that happen? Does it happen in the bullpen? Do you get a starter? Do you get a bench bat, a right-handed bat off the bench? Those are, I think anybody would tell you those are the 3 spots, right? I think in order, it would have to be, I think my top one would have to be a spot in the rotation, a number 2 guy, preferably if you can get that, if you can improve your rotation, because I get it. This lineup isn't what people expected that it was going to be, and the lineup isn't what I think that it probably still can be when you consider the fact that you're not getting at all what you should or expected to be getting from the 2 big hitters in the lineup, right? You're getting maybe more than you expected from Mason Wynn and Alec Burleson, so you're picking up some of that slack. But the lineup does have the ability to be dangerous, and we've seen it on a number of occasions. The other thing is the bullpen is really good and can sustain it when it's a close game, whether it's you're down a run and you need a couple of bullpen arms to withstand 2 innings, 3 innings, whatever it's been, so you can come back, or you're up a run and you need the bullpen to hold pat so you can win a game. That's what the Cardinals have done all year long. They've won those close games, the 1-run games at one point, and I don't know where they rank right now as far as in comparison to the rest of the league, but the one-run wins have been what has sustained this team throughout the first half, or the pre-All-Star break, I should say, of the baseball season. In one-run games, they are 18-12. Now, at one point, that was in the top 2 or 3 of the National League in one-run games. In blowout games, in games decided by 5 or more runs, they're 7-15. So they don't win a lot of those, and they do lose their share of those. That's why, as you hear everybody talk about, they've got the negative run differential despite having a winning record. Or I should say they have a winning record despite having the negative run differential. But I think just essentially playing how you have played, if you're the Cardinals, playing how you have played, certainly for the last couple of months, but even in a wider scale, if you're essentially playing the way that this team has played from start to finish, from start to right now, you are looking at a team that is likely to be in the postseason, probably as a wild card, but will be in the conversation for the National League Central Division. You've still got games to play against the Brewers. They have played well. They have actually played well against the teams that have done well this year. They played well against the teams with winning records. You know, they had the tough series against the White Sox. They had a terrible series against the Colorado Rockies at home. You see both of those again coming up later in this season. But there is the opportunity. It starts tomorrow. The Cardinals are back at it tomorrow night against Atlanta. You've got Pittsburgh. You come home for Washington and Texas. That's the end of the month. That's the end of the time before the trade deadline as well, because that Washington series takes you right to Sunday the 28th, Monday the 29th in St. Louis, and then it's the 30th, I believe, is the trade deadline. So July 30th is the transaction deadline. That's where who knows? That's what we're going to be talking about from now until then, is trying to figure out what, if anything, the Cardinals are going to do. We've got more to come in hour number 2 of the Gray Bar Sports Open Line. We'll talk to Tamar Scheer of KMOV. We'll hopefully have some time to take your calls as well. Joe Pott for Matt Pauley here on this Thursday night. Sports Open Line continues after this.
Sorry, but we actually have a wait list for our Monstera.
Shaw's greenhouse is really bringing in the green.
We can't keep snake plants and stuff.
She needs a construction
Sports Open Line. Once again, Matt Pauley on KMOX.
Once again, Joe Pott in for Matt Pauley this week here on the Gray Bar Sports Open Line. And, we do have some baseball content we can use and want to use. I want to let you hear a little bit from Oliver Marmol. He visited with Tom Ackerman yesterday here on KMOX, and we'll bring you that as the Cardinals skipper Tom Ackerman caught up with the Cardinals skipper.
And joining us live is Oliver Marmol, the Cardinals manager. Thank you so much for doing this during your break. How are you?
Doing well, sir. How are you?
I'm doing great. It's always good to hear your voice on KMOX, and I know these are nice, quiet times for you and your family, so thank you for doing this. Is this a nice break for you? Are you able to break away from the game for a little bit?
Oh, absolutely. Definitely can. Got the little ones with me, the wife with me, and we got away and just enjoying a little bit of time away from the stadium and just giving them the time they need, 4 and 6. So it's been fun, man.
That is awesome. Well, please give my personal thanks to Amber for allowing you to do this, because I know these are special family times. So thank you for that. Ryan Helsley, I mentioned that in the beginning. He decided to not pitch. What is your reaction to that? And what did you think about it?
Yeah, I think it's smart. I mean, it's a definite an honor to attend the All-Star game and participate in it. He's got some lower half stuff towards the end there, the last week or so that he was pitching through. Not overly limiting, but it would have been nice to be able to take that break and not have to take the mound and re-aggravate it. So in order to have him fresh and effective for the second half, it made the most sense to go ahead and give that hip a break. So he was able to do that, and we'll have a good version of Helsley here in the next several months.
No Cardinals running around out there last night, but still fun, isn't it? I mean, to see all the best of the best get together. I thought it was pretty cool personally that Paul Skeens is going up against Aaron Judge. It was just a one-pitch thing, but I get amped up for those kinds of things.
Yeah, I mean, anytime you get the best dudes in the game all in each clubhouse, it's a good night, man. Especially for those. I mean, you listen to the interviews afterwards as well, and it's exciting for some of those guys to be in the clubhouse with their rivals and guys that they compete against every day. But you get all the best ones in the same clubhouse for a night, and it's fun.
I have covered a lot of All-Star games. It's always good to have everyone back together, and those sort of baseball conventions, no doubt about it, are really insightful, and the game is going places, no question. Let's talk about the Cardinals specifically, though. I mean, you're right in this, are you not? I mean, here you are, the number 2 wildcard team in the National League. I know that's not what you want, though. You want that division. You're 4.5 back. Let's just talk basics. How do you get there? Ollie, I mean, when you look at this team right now, what do you need to do specifically to overtake Milwaukee?
I mean, the simple answer is what we've been doing. You eliminate the 15 and 24 start, which you can't. All you can do is start playing better baseball from that time on. But we would be leading the division, and all we need to do is continue to play the style of baseball that we've been playing. Good defense, run the base as well. Our offense is becoming a little bit more consistent, and our rotation and bullpen have been as expected. So in order for us, it's a marathon, man. We've been playing good ball for the last 2 months, and we need to continue doing that. If so, it'll be a fun couple months, I'll tell you that.
No, I would agree with you. And you can feel it too. I know you mentioned it in the Cubs series and before that when that crowd, there's something about the Busch Stadium crowd. They have, as you know, they know the game. They'll let everybody know that they know the game. They're very smart fans, but they can get revved up. And you, as a team, you do feel that. I mean, you could feel that in the dugout when things start to get electric in there.
Oh, gosh, absolutely you can. And the players feed off of it. Everybody feeds off of it, man. There's a reason it's a home field advantage, right? When we play good baseball and our crowd gets behind what we're doing, it's a heck of a lot of fun. And I'll tell you that the last couple months, we've been inching closer and closer to that division. There is a huge deficit there. We've gone ahead and closed that gap. And our aim is to come back after this little break and close it completely. That's what we're aiming to do. That's what we want to do. And our guys are super convicted about doing exactly that. So whenever you get the crowd behind you and that one we won against the Cubs, it was loud, man. I didn't make it for all 9. I got tossed early, but even inside my office, you can hear them. So it's a fun environment, man, and it's good when we're giving our fan base what they expect, and that's good, clean baseball and winning baseball, and we're doing exactly that. And our hope is to continue that.
This does go back to when you got tossed on Mother's Day, doesn't it? I mean, do you still hear that from people, that ejection kind of got everybody jump started inside that organization?
Man, the guys been playing good baseball, and I give the credit to the ones that are getting in there every day and having to make the pitch, having to actually swing the bat and do the job. Part of my gig from time to time is to get them going, but no, man, credit to the players because they've put it together and they're doing a really nice job.
No, I hear you. You've had some really good performances out of your younger guys, Mason Wynn, Alec Burleson. I mean, I could go right down the line, the offensively and defensively. And I think you know where I'm going here is your stalwarts, your expected great players. Still, I think inside, Arenado and Goldschmidt believe that they're not doing what they should be doing, but you have told me, I mean, it's going to happen at some point. Their track record is what it is.
We're about to start playing. Every game matters, but you come back from this break and you get to size up and say, all right, what do we have left and what do we need to do? You just asked me to kind of lead this off. What do you need to do in order to win the division? And the games that matter down the road right here, it's going to be really fun to watch our experienced players do what they do. And I truly believe that at the end of this thing, Goldie and Nato will carry this team on their back and do what they're used to doing. And they're going to get the help of the Donovans and Burlesons and Mason Wynns. And you go down that list of guys that have been performing extremely well. And they're going to continue to do that. But at some point over the next couple months, those other 2 guys are going to throw this team on their back. And it's going to be a lot of fun to watch. Experience matters, and we have some of that. So it's we're 4.5 back. It's going to be a lot of fun, man.
Last thing, and here's another name, and that is Wilson Contreras. As he starts to get himself back, boy, his timing. I mean, when he hits them, they go. And I guess my question is this: can you evaluate your catching situation right now, and then circle back to Wilson, if you would, as to what he's been able to provide you, that fire inside your clubhouse?
I love that dude. He competes and he cares about winning and the group in that clubhouse. That's all he cares about, nobody else. And it's a lot of fun to watch, man. We missed him for several weeks due to that injury, and the guys were able to hold it together and do some really good things during that time in order to be where we're at today. Getting him back a couple of weeks ago was instrumental, man, because this is a big bat in the middle of the lineup, right-handed bat, especially when you look at our lefty righty mix. We've struggled against left-handed pitching, so to add another righty bat, and Wilson has been awesome, man. And behind the plate, him and Pages have done an incredible job, much improved from last year. And you look at the framing numbers, you look at everything, and it's been good. So Wilson's fire, his skill set, his just overall competitive nature is a big part of what we do.
Thank you for this. Appreciate it. Enjoy your break, and we will catch up with you when you go to Atlanta to take on the Braves on Friday.
You got it, brother. Good talking to you.
Cards manager Oliver Marmol with Tom Ackerman. That was yesterday here on KMOX. It is nice to hear from Ollie Marmol, and it's his break. Look, that's what Tom Ackerman said, right? It's his break, so it was nice of him to spend some time and take that opportunity to chat with Tom. We'll visit with Tamar Scher on the other side of the break. The Graybar Sports Open Line continues after this on KMOX.
Are you tired of those unwanted, stubborn areas of fat?
Move you. Odyssey. That's AUDACY.
Sports Open Line continues here on KMOX. Joe Pot in for Matt Pauley this week as we keep things going here during the All-Star break. And another great guest I'm happy to visit with. She is Tamar Scher from KMOV. And I was saying just the other night that we're lucky to have the coverage we have in St. Louis. I was talking then about the print journalists, but we have so many good sports people here in town. And I've gotten a chance to catch up with a few this week. So Tamar, your turn, and I'm glad to do it.
Joe, always great talking to you. We typically see each other in the press box at Cardinals games, but now it's so fun to hang with you on this side of things.
Plus, it's, St. Louisans, we like talking about St. Louis and to each other about St. Louis, right?
Always, always. And anywhere you are, if you're from St. Louis, they're going to ask you where you went to high school, and we're going to keep the conversation going for a while.
And Tamar, you got to do something really cool today with a St. Louisan.
Yes, I did. Matthew Tkachuk. Oh, my goodness. He is one of a kind. I was with him at St. Louis Children's Hospital because he brought the Stanley Cup back to his hometown, and he took it on a ton of different stops, maybe a couple of bars and restaurants in town. But today it was super special. He was with patients all morning long, and I was with him all morning chatting with him about his experience. And he says, if I can give back just some happiness and joy to these patients who I can't even imagine what they're going through, just to put a smile on someone's face made Matthew Tkachuk happy. And, that's just the Tkachuk family. They're one of a kind. They do so much for St. Louis.
That first of all is amazing. And to think that in his mind, like that was a thought in his mind, like you said, hey, we can go to bars, we can hang out with friends, whatever. But in his mind, he's like, hey, you know what? I'm taking the cup to Children's Hospital. It says a lot, like you said, about that family.
And this is an opportunity for him to give back. And yes, like you mentioned, Big Walt's the same exact way. He is so giving and caring, and clearly that's rubbed off on his boys that, win the Stanley Cup, win all you can, and the game is super important. But at the end of the day, Matthew was telling me these are the moments that he lives for, to be able to give back in that way. So it was super, super neat, and really grateful they were able to bring us all in to be part of it.
Yeah, I think that's really cool. Tamar Scher with us from KMOV4. So I guess I should say First Alert 4 now, right?
Yes, it is First
Alert 4
now.
Okay. My apologies. We're at the All-Star break. At the All-Star break, of course, getting ready. Baseball starts tomorrow night. This is a team, as I have detailed much over the last 3 or 4 nights, that obviously we looked at you have the beginning of the year, and then you've got what they've done since Mother's Day to put them right in the thick of things. So you're in the hunt for the division. Frankly, you're obviously in the wild card spot. What struck you about what you saw or in your time covering the Cardinals in the start of this year?
Well, first of all, it's a complete 180.
Right.
I think we can all agree with that, where April, we were worried that, it's just going to be a repeat of last year, guys saying, hang with us, hang with us. Then you got guys like a Michael Ciani who's playing Gold Glove defense. You see an Alec Burleson being the offensive standout for this team, and it gets you excited. But I have to say, Joe, I was really excited that they had this All-Star break now so they can kind of get things together, give Ryan Helsley a little bit of a break, the lone All-Star for the Cardinals, so that he can come out in the second half and perform like he has been all season long. But I think this team just needed that little push and break. And now we got a Lars Nootbaar coming back. We got a Wilson Contreras who's back. And hopefully we'll see a Tommy Edman. But I think that now that these guys are starting to get healthier, we are seeing more of a complete team like they wanted us to see right when spring training kicked off. And I'm optimistic at this point. But hey, Joe, regardless, they have a winning record. They're 50-46 right now to enter the second half. And that's a big deal to be at a winning record heading into that second half of the stretch.
And I thought, quite honestly, you're in the clubhouse more than I am, but I felt like even during the 15-24 start, that this was a team that at least was projecting to us that there was still the confidence that this was going to come around and that it was going to look more like what it looks now.
Correct. And I mentioned guys like Ciani and Alec Burleson. of course, we have to mention Mason Wynn as well, that these are guys who, when they realize, okay, Arenado and Goldie are not happy with the way that things are going for them right now. They know that this is very uncharacteristic of those two players, guys who they really leaned on. Now you have guys like Alec Burleson and Mason Wynn stepping up in key ways to say, no, we're going to help you, because so many times throughout their careers, they've been the driving force. But we did see in the clubhouse guys lifting each other up, and there wasn't any rhetoric of, yep, okay, we're going to put our hands up here. No, it's always the messaging was that we have so much of the season left to prove that we are meant to be in this place. And hey, now they're at second spot in their division, right behind the Milwaukee Brewers, and keep inching closer. And we got ourselves potentially a playoff team.
Yeah, it certainly feels that way. Do you worry at all that we have seen the best of a Paul Goldschmidt or Nolan Arenado? Are you still believing, or do you still think that this second half can be more of what we expected from them?
The past year and a half is when I've been covering this team in the clubhouse. So for me, it's challenging because I know that these are two guys that have had success prior to this. And of course, they still are strong talents, but I can't say right now what I think about what they're going to do the second half of the stretch. I hope that you have this break, you have some time to collect your thoughts. Again, we've seen sort of that push up since April, which I think they can both say was a huge slump for both of them, and going into May as well. But I think overall, hopefully we will see a turnaround from the both of them.
Do you have feelings or ideas of what you want to see with regards to this team making any kind of changes, additions, or changes in that regard? Because, I feel like obviously there's still some needs. If it were up to you, are there things that you would do to this team?
So I think one key spot that everyone's kind of concerned about when they look toward the trade deadline is what the fifth starter is going to look like, when Steven Matz still is looking like he's kind of struggling. He was on a rehab assignment off. So what happens with him is going to be a big factor in how I feel about this pitching staff. Could we add another? That would be ideal. But I'll say, Joe, I don't think that this team is going to make any blockbuster moves. They haven't been known to make those moves in the past at the trade deadline, and I don't foresee that. But, if we get another bat to fill the void of a Tommy Edman, if there was that fifth starter that could be added to the lineup, those are two pieces that I know Cardinals Nation would be really happy to see added to the mix because of the losses of Edman and Matz. But it's not a done season yet. I don't know and don't foresee what's going to happen moving forward and what they're going to do. But I would not personally expect them to make any blockbuster moves, just similar to how they've been in the past.
Yeah, it's definitely it sort of holds true for what the Cardinals have done. And to be honest, I think with the way the National League shapes up, because despite even the Cardinals where they're at now, fairly comfortable, there's plenty of teams that are right in the mix. This has been a tight race most of this year.
Correct. Especially, yes, for the National League, it's been an extremely tight race. And I think if you're the Cardinals, you like where you've been able to come out of. You are now sitting in the second spot in the NL wildcard race behind the Atlanta Braves, who they're playing to start off the second half of the season. That's starting tomorrow. So I think that's a good position to see, okay, where are they at? These two teams kind of neck and neck in that wild card race. And then, of course, being only a couple games back from the Brewers. But this has been a tight division. It's been a tight league. So hopefully they can separate themselves and be more consistent, not have that 2 steps forward, 1 step back mentality that we're kind of feeling.
All right. Final thing for you, Tamar Scher from First Alert, for when you're not covering a game, when you're not having to be there to shoot a story or whatever the case, are you watching sports?
Oh, 24/7. I was at the Cardinals-Cubs doubleheader, even though I was off that day.
Oh, just
I got
as a fan? That's
a rare day off. Exactly. So, no, I'm always watching sports. I have 2 younger brothers, too, so I can't really ever get away from sports. That's kind of been my mantra for my entire life. So, no, I love it, but I'm an avid sports lover, and I'll never stop, even when I'm off the clock.
And are your brothers in St. Louis too?
One is in Baltimore, and the other goes to school in Indianapolis. So
I think I saw
I'm the
that,
only one
actually.
at home.
Well, you were in Baltimore recently with your brother, right?
I was recently with him. We got to catch an O's game, the Orioles Rangers. That was really fun. I will say that was a really fun baseball game and a nice area. That's my first time in Baltimore.
Yeah, I Camden Yards, one of those spots, right, where I think any baseball fan. I've never been there. I'd love to go there. So
You got to go. It is a once in a lifetime experience. It's iconic.
Yeah.
Is what I want to say.
yeah, no question about it. Well, Tamar, it was great to catch up in this form. As you said, we'll do it. I know throughout the rest of this baseball season, but thanks for putting aside some time and doing this for us tonight.
Love chatting with you. Appreciate you. And I'm happy to chat on KMOX anytime.
Beautiful. That is Tamar Scher from First Alert 4, and we're happy to have her here on Sports Open Line at any time as well. We're happy to have you on Sports Open Line. If you want to get your calls in, now's the time. I told you I've been telling you all week that I was going to try to have some time for some calls. I have some time for some calls. 314-436-7900. You can tell me, what you expect from the Cardinals. Are you happy with where they are at this point right now? I have to believe almost everyone is surprised where they're at right now, right? Even a little bit of surprise, especially given with the way they started. But are you happy with the way they've been? Do you think there's more going forward? All that's on the table. Anything about that is on the table. Let me know. 436-7900. We can do it. On the other side of the break, the Gray Bar Sports Open Line continues. I'm Joe Pott, in for Matt Pauley. We're coming right back.
News. All the headlines that matter to me.
Weather.
If it's going to rain,
Back in on the Gray Bar Sports Open Line Thursday night. Last night that we have to say we don't have any baseball until sometime at the end of October. Some type of baseball. I'm not necessarily Cardinals, obviously. They've got some off days. They've got every Thursday off, it feels like, because I work on Friday mornings usually. So I'm always missing the Cardinals on the Thursday night. But this is it. This is the last time we have to endure a night without baseball for the baseball season. I did say I could take some calls. I want to take some calls. I have some calls. I'm glad to have some calls. Brent is up first. Brent, you are on KMOX.
Hey, I appreciate it. I'm a first-time caller. I'm in Dallas. I'm a huge St. Louis Cardinals fan, and yeah, I'm glad to be on. I wanted to ask you about the Cardinals second base because I was up there for the Royals doubleheader game and then the Cubs game Friday night, and the second base position is just something that's been on my mind. I don't know if they're going to address it in the, if they're going to address it anytime soon, but with Nolan Gorman at second base, it just felt like the whole time he was just, obviously he's not hitting for a high average. He was just striking out a bunch, and those strikeouts, they're not productive at all. So I'm almost wondering, I think there's a valid debate is Carpenter the best second baseman that we could play right now? I don't know. I think it's a valid question, and I was wondering your thoughts on it.
Yeah. No, thanks for the call, Brent. I certainly appreciate it, and I thank you for being able to call in for the first time. That's fantastic, and that gives you an idea. He's calling from Dallas, so it gives you an idea of the reach of KMOX, which I think we know, but it's nice to be reminded of that. I don't personally think there's a valid debate there. I mean, Matt Carpenter maybe 5 years ago, 6 years ago. I don't know Matt Carpenter now. I don't think that's the answer at second base. Nolan Gorman, and I don't know if we're talking defensively, he was talking about strikeouts. Nolan Gorman strikes out a lot, but Nolan Gorman's going to hit 30 home runs, or he's going to hit very close to 30 home runs from the second base spot. That's massive production from your second base spot. And I don't know what else to say then. I think maybe it appears that you're going to have to live with Nolan Gorman striking out. Nolan Gorman is a massively streaky hitter. He goes through times. There was a road trip. I think he had 6 or 7 home runs on a road trip earlier this year. But then he's going to go through these long stretches, unfortunately, that are hitless. And that's, and it comes with a lot of strikeouts. And that is just, I think, what Nolan Gorman is. And the Cardinals have made the decision clearly that they're going to stick with Nolan Gorman. I'm okay with that only because I do like the upside. I like the pop that he gives you at second base. And you're just not going to get that from Matt Carpenter right now. Matt Carpenter's fine in short spells, and I think that's where he is in his career. That's why he was brought here. He wasn't brought here to be a starting player. He certainly wasn't brought here to supplant Nolan Gorman at second base. So that's what I would say about that situation is I don't think it's viable to have Matt Carpenter as your starting second baseman. And quite frankly, if you're talking defensively, Gorman is getting better, I think, defensively at second base. He's playing a pretty decent second base this year. He is still a positive WAR player right now, even with all the strikeouts. And again, he is playing a good second base. So defensively, I think he's better than he has been over the last couple of years. So that I hope that answers that question. I also had a question from a caller who just wanted an update on Jordan Walker. So I want to do that. Right now, hitting 243 at Memphis. He has right now 21 extra base hits in 59 games this year. 58 hits overall, 21 extra base hits. He's got 4 homers, 24 driven in. Now, the question from the caller also was kind of what's the timeline look like? When does he come back to St. Louis? That's hard to answer. When I have had the chance to ask John Mozeliak, and when those of us on the station have had the chance to ask John Mozeliak, what the answer continues to be is he's got to prove himself, is basically what they've said. Now, last year when he was sent down, the word was get the ball in the air, that he wasn't driving the ball as much as they would like to see. So that is something that they would have to answer. They, being the Cardinals, would have to answer. What are they seeing? Do they like what they're seeing? Do they like the progression of what they're seeing? All I can tell you, again, without obviously having seen him at Memphis, 243, batting average, 683 OPS, 4 home runs, 21 extra base hits this year so far. Batting average on balls in play, 286, which just tells you he's striking out a lot because he is 47 strikeouts in 59 games. So I'm sure that they would ultimately like him to cut down on the strikeouts. And the other problem is right now is, can you bring him up? Where would he play when you bring him up? So that is becoming a bit of an issue. Your outfield's a little bit crowded as is. Now that you've got Nootbaar back, who's been playing a little bit more center field over the last week since he's come up, because you still want the guys in your corners. You want them in the lineup. Brendan Donovan's hitting really well. I just saw a stat today, as a matter of fact, that his contact rate is one of the best in baseball, which I think that we have seen some of, but it has legitimately been this year up there with the likes of some big names in baseball. I'm going to find it for you here real quick. Squared up balls per swing. That was the stat that I saw that MLB Network tweeted out earlier today, and it's Luis Arraez, it is Stephen Kwan, Mookie Betts, and Brendan Donovan. That's the top four in squared up balls per swing, and Donovan's at 36.1, and Arraez is 44.8. That's your top. But those are the top four in baseball. So my point is, your corners are Burleson and Donovan. They're not going anywhere, with the exception of perhaps a DH day for Burleson. Sometimes you'll see Donovan at second base and then Nootbaar in center. So you have Siani. Also, you would like to have him out there. Now, he doesn't give you much offensively. But so then the question is, where do you put Jordan Walker? And I don't think they want him to come up if he's going to play once or twice a week. That's another reason that he's in Memphis, because he's playing every single day in Memphis, and he doesn't get to where they want him to get to as a hitter if he's not playing every day. So I hope that answered both of those questions. We'll take a break. We've got another segment to go as we finish up things here on this Thursday night of the Graybar Sports Open Line. And I've still got time for your call, 314-436-7900. And I'll chat with you on whatever you care to chat about tonight as we wrap up this final hour of the Graybar Sports Open Line. We'll do it on the other side of the break. Joe Pott in for Matt Pauley on KMOX.
Tom Ackerman for Busey Bank. We proudly recognize the Lime Child and Family
Check out the only agents that I trust at thegelmanteam.com.
Welcome back to the Gray Bar Sports Open Line. Once again, Matt Pauley on KMOX.
Joe Pott back with you. One final segment here on the Gray Bar Sports Open Line. And we do have an open line for you, 314-436-7900. Time for a couple if you want to get in here towards the end of the show. I saw this today that I saw Rob Manfred was interviewed by SiriusXM. I don't know what show it was. It was during the All-Star festivities, but he was asked about MLB players participating in the Olympics come 2028 when baseball is coming back to the Olympics. And of course, the Olympics are coming back to the U.S. in 2028. And he was talking about, what that looks like. And it's probably got to come from a collective bargaining type agreement. But Bryce Harper also came out and said how much he would like to play in the Olympics and play for Team USA. So I thought that was interesting. And it would be, I believe, the first time, I think the last time baseball was in the Olympics, they weren't having big league guys go to the Olympics. So they were having minor leaguers go to the Olympics, I think. So it would be interesting. It would probably take the look of what the NHL did when they would have a break, when they would have the Olympic break. That would be the only way to do it that I would imagine. So that would be, I think it would be cool. I would be for that. But again, if it has to be collectively bargained, that's going to be a whole nother story. But something to watch out for as we get into, think about as we get into the Paris Olympics, and then, of course, looking forward to 2028. Chuck has given us a call. Chuck, you are up next. You're on KMOX.
Yes, I'd like to know what you think they would have to give up to get Max Scherzer, or would you want to do a big deal with the White Sox for Eric Fetty, Dave Roberts, and Lewis Roberts?
All of them together?
Yes.
My goodness. I don't know. I don't know what I don't know if Robert helps you because you're full in the outfield. That's the only thing that I would think about. And so if you're going to do a deal like that, you're probably going to give up a major league outfielder. I don't know if we have if the Cardinals have the major league outfielder to do that. And as far as Max Scherzer goes, man, I would be interested to think about that. He has got, the body of work obviously is great. And I think that there is some, that's sort of the thoughtful idea, right? To have Max Scherzer come back home to St. Louis again. If you do that, that's going to probably take a major leaguer to do that. Max Scherzer has a limited no trade, or it has a partial no trade, I believe, with Texas. So I don't know what the teams are if they're out there. I would assume the Cardinals are a team that he would accept a trade to. I don't know that for sure. And I don't know what Texas would be looking for. He has only signed through this year, through 2024. So he would be a free agent. It would be a rental if you do that, which maybe makes the price come down some if you're talking about what you're giving up for that. I do think probably that that the Cardinals would be willing to deal from the major league roster if they felt like they were going to get something like a Max Scherzer back. And the name that I keep coming back to is Ivan Herrera. So I think that he is probably a good candidate to be moved if there is someone out there that is interested in that. I think the Cardinals have clearly decided that Pedro Pages is worth sticking around as that backup. Herrera was injured. He was in Memphis. He was activated before the All-Star break, and he was optioned back to Memphis. It was a paperwork thing, really, but they didn't even bring him back up. And I had, for a time, thought the Cardinals might stick to the three catchers. They didn't. And I think that tells you all you need to know there. I think that, and again, off the major league roster, is there somebody that is interested in a Dylan Carlson? I don't know. He's not been great, and especially this year, he's not even been really good from the right side of the plate, which is where he'd been better previously. And he has struggled from both sides this year, right now hitting .211. But is he worth it? He is still young. Is he worth a trade to somebody Is he going to get you anything? He is right now still. He is not yet 26, so he could maybe. I think he turns 26 in October. And again, is he someone that benefits from a change of scenery? I don't know. And then the other thing would be, I think the other place from a major league deal or from your major league roster would be maybe a bullpen piece, which I would hate to give up a bullpen piece. But if you think that you can parlay that into a number 2 starter or someone who could slot into your rotation, then perhaps that is doable. Perhaps that is something, they have a lot of bullpen pieces, and they have a lot of pieces that are a lot of, they're still mixing and matching. You've seen Roycroft go up and down. And I can see somebody like that perhaps being part of a deal as well. So I don't know. To answer, that's a long maybe answer to your question. I think Scherzer is fun to think about. I don't know if that actually happens, and I don't know what it would take since he is a free agent. It is a rental, but it's a lot to look for. It's a lot to ask Texas for, is what I should say, is to get a guy like Max Scherzer. I would love it. I would think it would be very cool. He's only made 5 starts this year. He's 1-2 with a sub-3 ERA. We'll see. Thanks for sticking with me all week long. As I said, Matt Pauley is back coming up tomorrow as the Cardinals are back. Big thanks to Matt Pajeski. He's kept us in guests all week long. Thanks to Kyle Sixta tonight and everybody else who's worked with us, worked with me the last couple of nights. Thanks tonight to Brian Dunseth, Dan Reardon, Tamar Scheer. It's been great. I appreciate it. Mike Elam's coming in next. Full coverage of the Republican National Convention coming up here on KMOX.
To have a roof over your head, a nice roof over your head, is very important.
That's Rick talking about his experience with Rhino Shield Ceramic